Well, good evening. My name is Paul Finley, and I appreciate your assistance in this assignment, and I look forward to your feedback at the conclusion of this in order to kind of form a foundation for where I'm at and kind of what started the process of this strategic planning process. Just kind of go back in time just a little bit. In January of 2014, my division had two people retire within a week of each other, and while one of those was somewhat expected, the other one was not. It really came as a surprise, and so the challenges that resulted from that brought about a lot of changes within my division, and I'll go on later and explain that while the department that I'm associated with has about 161 people, actually, my division is only made up of 6, and so to have two people retire within a week of each other was basically losing a third of my workforce and about 50 plus years worth of experience. So needless to say, it created a domino effect, if you will, and resulted in some negatives and over time some positives as well. So my organization, just to kind of give you a little bit of background, I work for the fire department in my city, and I'm in charge of the fire marshal's office. And it's as I mentioned before, it's a small division of specially trained people, only six total, counting myself. And all 6 of these people maintain multiple certifications, really triple certified in various licenses, law enforcement, fire suppression, and inspections and paramedic and things like that. So the division is led by the fire marshal, and alongside me have an assistant fire marshal of a captain rank within our department, and then we've got 3 deputy fire marshals that work the typical firefighter shift work schedule, and they carry out safety inspections and investigations and handle citizen complaints and investigations of arson and things such as that. And so with such a small workforce, even when we're full, and a growing city that has seen a huge boom in regards to construction activity and people moving in, we're a very small group in a very large and growing city with a very large and growing workload, and that all combined creates some challenges. And so in order to keep up with all those work responsibilities, we've had people that have just been required to work extra hours, and therein lies the issue. It's no secret that most budget dollars in local government organizations are becoming much more difficult to obtain, and with economic conditions as they are, at least in our area. As a result, projects to curb spending and save money are common. And so in my organization, we utilize Lean and Six Sigma methodologies. Actually have a department within the entire organization over innovation and Lean and Six Sigma, and each department has people certified, including myself, in various certification levels of Lean Six Sigma. And so, as you're probably aware, Lean Six Sigma methodologies seek to eliminate waste and reduce variation within processes. So, while these methodologies are often utilized in the private sector, we've successfully employed tactics throughout our organization that have been able to provide for a more efficient and accountable local government organization. In this specific project that led to this strategic planning process, we utilized Lean Six Sigma methodologies in a Lean Sigma project to analyze our issue of a decreasing inspection completion rate, which is one of the main things that we do in our division, coupled with dramatically increasing overtime expenditures that we trace back to being shorthanded. And clearly each missed inspection could be considered a defect in the Lean Six Sigma world, and each dollar spent over the allocated budget on overtime could also be considered a defect, and so we focused on that. So in addition to the Lean and Six Sigma project that we completed, a SWOT analysis of the organization was conducted, and it identified many internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as several external opportunities for improvements and threats to the organization. Stakeholder analysis was also conducted, and it identified a long list of stakeholders that you would typically associate with a local government, especially a traditional emergency management and emergency services organization. So utilizing all that information, a primary strategic goal was established and disseminated throughout the organization. Communication was accomplished through the typical chain of command common amongst paramilitary organization, along with newsletters and email and public service announcements and things like that to reach out to the various stakeholders. The identified goal was that within the next budget cycle, we should identify avenues to provide efficient and consistent services within the Fire Marshal's division that will result in the completion of all 100% mandatory inspections of commercial structures, while also reducing the impact to the fire department's overtime budget. Incomplete inspections could not only result in businesses throughout the city operating in an unsafe manner, but it also increases the vulnerability and liability to the city and to the organization. Further, the overtime expenditures are a highly important line item in our already tight annual budget. And over the past year, almost a third of the total allocated overtime funds for the entire department, all 161, a third of those allocated dollars were drained because of this deficiency alone that we trace back to lack of personnel. So needless to say, we went over budget as a department again this past year. So it's clear that this problem was compounded because of the low numbers of trained personnel available to fill the roles and perform the duties. And while the department has 161 people, only 6 of those are trained and assigned to the FMO Fire Marshal's division. And when vacancies arise, overtime is the only method of filling the void because there's no additional cross-trained personnel within the department. So this clearly became the focus of the plan. The mission of the Fire Marshal's division is to protect the lives and property of the citizens of Tyler through the enforcement of fire and life safety codes and through the investigation of complaints regarding hazardous conditions, educational outreach regarding the dangers of fire, abating unsafe structures, determining the origin and cause of fires within the city, and actively pursuing the criminal investigation of those responsible for the crime of arson. Once the total overtime costs were validated, it became clear that it would be much cheaper to cross-train additional firefighters to perform the roles within the FMO whenever vacancies arise. However, it was important that strategies be developed that would assist leadership in monitoring the internal processes and tracking any improvements to the operations. 4 strategic and specific steps or objectives were developed which will assist in maintaining greater control and oversight so that the completion rates don't suffer and the overtime expenses don't get out of hand like we've seen over the past couple of years. First, a Gantt chart developed through the input of our stakeholders group will be developed and utilized to track the inspection and investigation benchmarks Second, daily briefings will be implemented to ensure communications between the shifts, which has been a common issue over the years. And that's going to eliminate the problem of inadequate follow-up of inspection and investigation activity. Third, our administrative captain, who is assigned to be my assistant within the division, will not only oversee the daily inspection activity, but also keep track of overtime usage on a more regular basis. And then this information is going to be reported on a weekly basis at weekly staff meetings, so that the trends can be developed and monitored in a more efficient way, and when problems are addressed, they can be handled while they're smaller instead of when they get bigger and harder to handle. And then further, a quality assurance program will kind of be built into that as well. Finally, through the use of a newly purchased records management system or software package, I have a news to transition to an entirely paperless inspection process is going to be identified and implemented. And as a side note, a pilot program is already in play with that. And it's offering up some promising results. So this, of course, is going to save some time and allow the inspectors and the investigators to make some better use of their time throughout the day, and the customer is going to realize a marked improvement in the process as well when all the activities are transitioned to a paperless and fully electronic format. And of course, all this hinges on the ability to get additional trained personnel capable and comfortable of filling the role. Upfront costs associated with the initial training of the reserve personnel will quickly be recovered in the savings from the decrease in overtime expenditures. So as you can see, this is really a multi-pronged approach to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and enhance the customer service experience within the department. Our main stakeholders, of course, the taxpaying citizens and visitors of our city. So this strategic plan directly impacts this stakeholder in a positive way throughout the year. So we received a couple of questions regarding the program from the audience. First, was how much do you plan to save each year by implementing this program? And that's a great question. It was really one of the main focuses of the whole project. And based on last year's data, we've historically spent about $50,000 in additional funds, unbudgeted funds, over time due to vacancies within this one division. Initial training of an additional 6 personnel would cost less than $10,000 during the first year, with no additional cost each additional year. So as you can see, the program quickly pays for itself. Second question was, how long do you expect it to take to fully implement this new program? And the initial training of all the required disciplines takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So savings and improvements will be realized in the very first year of the program. And so with that, we'll conclude the presentation. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.